Welcome to Viking Spotlight. This is a podcast about people, events, and projects in the North Canton City School District, and I'm your host, Jeff Wendorf. With Teacher Appreciation Week 2 weeks away, we thought we'd have a fun talk with three educators who are in their first year of teaching at North Canton City Schools. These three have varied responsibilities. Christian Combs is a science teacher at Hoover High School. Ashton McKelley is a construction technology teacher at Hoover High School. And Natalie Mizer is an intervention specialist working with students with severe disabilities at Clearmount Elementary. Welcome, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. And we're just going to keep kind of a rapid fire going here and get us all in. But we appreciate you being Vikings for sure this year. And you keep coming back. We're within a few weeks of the end of the year. But we just want to get your thoughts on what it's like to be a new teacher, one, in the field, but then also new at North Canton City Schools. So, Christian, let's start off with you. Tell us a bit about yourself, personally, professionally, educational background, major, and all those fun things.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Christian Combs, and I took a pretty untraditional route to teaching. I actually started off as a biologist at Kent State, and I worked there for 6 years. So my first degree was in biology. I went to the University of Akron. Graduated from Akron not really knowing what exactly I wanted to do. I know I wanted to work in the science field. So I found a job at Kent State where I managed a research lab. And so the faculty member that I worked with there specialized in plant ecology. So through that, I got to kind of travel different parts of the world. But I also got to interact with students while I was there too. And that's what kind of brought me to teaching. So I would work with students in the research lab, kind of teach them how to do some of the different projects we're working on, teach them about the lab equipment, and then tutor them from time to time as well. So I really enjoyed that part of it. But while I was working at Kent State, I started working towards my master's of arts and teaching, and I made it here. So
Great.
now I'm a science
cool.
teacher.
Yeah. So obviously your work with the science department, your research got you connected to kids, and that's the science is why it sounds like you've always been interested in biology. And what are your courses you teach here?
So I teach 9th grade physical science right now. So I teach 2 levels, regular physical science and honors physical science.
Okay. Great. So you're dealing with those freshmen, those
all freshmen.
15-year-olds. Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
That's fun. All right. Well, Natalie, tell us about your path to becoming an intervention specialist and what that means and, how you got here.
Yeah, so I graduated from Lake High School in 2018 and then went on to study special ed at Ashland University. Double majored, mild to moderate to intensive, so all spectrums of children with disabilities, student with disabilities. My minor was in online teaching and instructional tech, and I did my student teaching with Haley Bigelow over at Northwood Elementary and really fell in love with her classroom with students with severe disabilities and I've always known I've wanted to work with students with disabilities, so that was something I wanted to pursue. And I've been the middle school lacrosse coach here, so I knew since I was already a Viking, I wanted to teach at North Canton as well and got that opportunity, and I love where I'm at.
Yeah, good. Well, I know they love you at Clearmount too. Yeah,
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and we talked a little bit before the show here about the kids and the connections you make and the special connections. And it's awesome. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good. Well, Mr. McKelley, you're a little different path than these. We got a traditional education major right off the bat. We've got one that went into a science and then got into education. How about you?
So with me, it's been untraditional. I went to school for architectural engineering for a little while and then ended up taking over my father's asphalt paving company, which I did for years, and ended up getting rid of that in 2015, and I got into insurance. It's right down the construction alley, right? It's
Sure.
So I still do that as well. But getting into what drew me to wanting to become a teacher, my wife has been a teacher here for 20 plus years now, I think 21, 22, somewhere in there. So I've been part of the school system for quite some time. Been coaching softball here I think I'm in my 8th season with Coach Goodpasture. And when this opportunity came up, I thought this is another way for me that I could give back to the students and maybe teach those kids who the traditional route of college may not be for them.
Sure.
And give them some other opportunities that, and let them see that there's another way out there for them to make a living and be successful.
Yeah. So 2 businesses that you've operated gives you great insight into not only the construction trades, but the construction technology and, the how to do those things, but also how to run the business part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. You can go out and maybe fix a lot of things and not make any money doing it, right?
You got that right.
You got to get that part right.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah. Good. Well, your wife's been a teacher here for a long time and so on. So you've been around education and coached obviously for a while. So yeah, that's great. We're glad you're on board.
Thank you.
And I know you're doing
Appreciate
great things with
me.
the kids in your program too. So what about all 3 of you? You're finishing your first year. You've been here and for 8 months. We're coming up on the end of the year and I'm sure it's been a blur. And what's the toughest part of your job? Ashton, we'll come right back to you. What's the toughest part of your job, looking at your previous career and your previous experiences?
I would say the difference from, being out in the career world and coming back in education is learning how to slow things down for the students. You're not dealing with adults yet. Some of them think they're adults, but
sure.
Learning the process of slowing things down and taking it at the student's pace and making sure they truly understand every concept that we're going through.
Good. All right. Natalie, what about you? What's been the toughest thing you faced this year?
I think the toughest part is being an advocate for my students, that some of them don't have a voice, can't voice their opinions or voice what they want, and truly being able to stick up for them and being a voice and advocating for their needs and their wants, because some of them can't advocate for themselves yet. So teaching them those skills and being able to be a voice for them has been been amazing, but it's been a challenge.
Yeah, your kids are kindergarten, first and second, right? That's
Yes.
the age range, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'll be in a building next year that's twice as large,
Yes.
with twice as many kids, and so you'll continue that path and help with those. But good. Thanks. All right, Christian. Toughest part this year.
I echo kind of what Ashton was saying earlier about just taking things at a slow pace, slowing things down, making sure the students are understanding, the content that you're sharing with them. So I came from a field where it's pretty specialized, and I'm working with people who are in academia that have PhDs and master's degrees.
They had the fundamentals down, right?
Yeah, they had the fundamentals down. So you can imagine the types of conversations we had there when I was working as a researcher, pretty in-depth. But one thing I've had to adjust to is just, in my education classes throughout college, we always talked about the expert blind spot. And just, once you've worked in the field for so long, you tend to just assume that people already understand these different points that you're trying to teach them, and that's not always the case in high school. They're learning for the first time, so you really just have to slow down and make sure you take things one step at a time.
Very cool. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Well, Natalie, we're going to come back to you. What surprised you the most about being a teacher?
I feel like the planning and the paperwork behind teaching.
The work.
So it's all just not, it's all about the kids during the day, and then you have to do that extra layer of, paperwork like those IEPs and those progress monitoring reports. And it's something that isn't the best part of teaching, but it's necessary, and that extra planning really goes a long way. So that's something that was unexpected, or was expected, but kind of
just not the fun part.
Yes,
right?
exactly. The fun part's being able to work with the kids and be with the kids all day.
Right. Good. Ashton?
I would ditto that. It's the planning. Even though as a business owner, I live my life by planning, but making sure that we're planning out far enough for the kids and knowing that even with that planning, we're going to have those setbacks.
Right.
And adjusting to that as we go. So
Sure. Yeah. Good. All right. One left.
Yeah, to piggyback off of those comments too, with the planning, sometimes you can overplan and things don't go exactly according to your plan, which I've realized throughout the school year. So I would say reflection is a critical piece to the teaching profession. Just trying something out in the classroom, sometimes you realize it works, sometimes you realize it doesn't work, and you have to go back to the drawing board and try and improve it for next time.
Right. Yeah. So, all great plans made, right? Yeah. Never go the way they're supposed to. Well, and I assume that, all three of you have kids in your class that have different levels and different levels, even on an individual concept of, some may get it on Monday and others don't get it until the following Monday. And you've got to try to get them along as best you can. So that's the plan as well, right? That's part of the piece about lesson planning and staying on pace and trying to hit all your targets and things. That's the tough part, but because not everybody learns at the same rate or at the same time. Yeah, good stuff. So what's the best part of the job?
So I think for me, the best part of my job is getting to do something different every day. I don't think I could survive at a job where I, go into the office and work at my desk every day of the week. I always have different interactions with students. I get to teach different content every day of the week, and that's what really keeps me going and moving forward.
Cool. Good. Ashton?
I would say the teaching, the same thing, teaching what I'm passionate about. I love construction. I love working with tools, seeing the students not understand a concept, and then, like you said, a week later, all of a sudden, wow, they're actually putting something together. A drawing on a paper has now become a 3D item for them, and watching that student be extremely proud of what they've created. Yeah. It's not their math test, it's not their science, it's something that
they created.
I created this with my own hands, and seeing that student light up like that.
Yeah, neat.
That's the cool part.
Yeah. Natalie?
I would say the best part is seeing the progress my students have made, especially coming from a kindergarten to second grade perspective. I have a lot of kindergartners this year, and this is their first time in a full day structured setting where they're expected to keep their shoes on. They have to sit down and eat in a lunchroom or in my classroom if that's where they're comfortable. And looking back, and I know my principal and I have talked about that and looked back at the beginning of the year and what my year looked like. And it was some ups and downs, and now being able to look back and say, wow, this student, he was nonverbal at the beginning of the year. Now he is saying hi to his peers. He's saying, good morning, Miss Mizer, which is something that, at the beginning I was like, oh, I don't know if he could have done that. And now It's just awesome to see that progress, and it's what keeps me going every day.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So growth in students and their progress. I hear the light bulb going off when they get it, and the variety of nothing being the same in the classroom. Every student that comes in, and you probably have 100 students or so.
About 140, yeah.
140
and each
students.
one brings their own personality,
Right.
their own background.
Their own ups and downs for the day.
Downs, yep.
And yeah, lots of life coming at them and you, right?
Oh,
You get it all. Yeah, good. Well, I think back to my teaching days and even principal days and all those things, and my day currently. None of them are the same. It's always fun to help people to get it, and it's always fun to see growth. Yeah, thanks for sharing that stuff. Awesome. Well, you've been in school, Natalie, more recently than Ashton, and comes at it from a little different approach. But what's different now is that you thought, oh, this is nothing like being a student. Well, how's school changed for you?
There's a couple different things of where it's kind of changed. Is you, as a student, you don't see all of the work teachers put into your day, and you kind of overlook that. And now I appreciate just the little things of, your teacher bringing in candy for you, or, your teacher planning this in-depth active lesson. I kind of appreciate that a lot more, and all the paperwork and the back end of it that you don't see as a student.
Right.
And for a special ed perspective is trying to get my students out there in the gen ed class as much as possible. And that's not something that when I was in elementary school, you didn't see those students very often.
Right.
And the culture is kind of changing, and I'm on that move of, getting them out with their peers and them being able to go to specials with their peers and go to recess with their peers. So that's something that I want to change, and that's kind of different than when I was in school.
Right. Good stuff. Christian, how about you?
So I graduated in 2011, so it's been quite some time for me, but technology has come a very long way since when I was in school. Much of what we do now is or can be done with a Chromebook, whether that's using online tools to create concept maps, flow charts, whether it's taking notes on the computer, using the computer to submit assignments or take tests. It's just really come a long way. Yeah, whereas when I was in school, a lot of it was on paper. So.
Right, yeah. I can't find my notebook and I have a test tomorrow, right? That's a problem.
Right.
Now you usually have digital backup. Yeah, Good stuff. All right. Ashton, how about you?
It's changed quite a bit. Technology is number one. I mean, we didn't have our own computers. We had one computer lab, and I think you always had to share that with another student while we were in there. I will say I think teachers have changed a little bit, or maybe it's just because now I know more about how teachers' life really is. I feel like we're a little more forgiving of the student now than we were back when I was, because, I mean, you got one shot and that's it.
Yeah.
Now we give a little more opportunity to improve themselves, and I like that, because we're not always going to get it right the first time.
Right, yeah. So it's more about if you get it right or when you get it right, not whether you got it right today.
Correct.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. To kind of add on to that, it's been interesting to think about, too, the role of a teacher and how that's changed over time. Whereas, back in the day, the teacher is primarily the one sharing the new information, but now students have all of this information available to them right at their fingertips, whether it's on their phone, on their computers at home, whether it's in the media. So it's interesting to think about sometimes whether the teacher's role will kind of just be, to facilitate the acquisition of that information rather than to provide the information as it has been in the past.
Yeah, the owner of the knowledge is no longer the teacher. Back in my day, I mean, the social studies teacher was the one that had the most knowledge in the class about social studies or history or whatever, or math, and that's not the case now. I mean, our students can have it, looked up on their phone in a matter of seconds, and so it's we've got to teach our kids how to ask good questions, right? How to research that, get good information, how to determine whether that information's correct or biased or not. I mean, we can certainly find biased information everywhere, and then be able to share that or use it to analyze things. And so, different world, that's for sure, right? Yeah. So information is coming at them out of a fire hose, and we just need to be able to help them use it properly, use it well. And I remember back in my high school days and as assistant principal, as the phones were coming around and nobody wanted to let the kids have a phone. And it was very threatening at the time, and no phones in school and those kind of things. And this was in high school. And they said, well, they'll probably do something improper with it. And I says, well, I remember in my day, some people used their pencil to write bad notes and write things that were improper with their pencil. We never took their pencil away. We just taught them to make different choices. And I think that's where we're at with technology. It's not going away. We got to help them use it appropriately and properly and use it for their advantage. So, good stuff. Thanks. Well, one more question for everybody, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. But what will you do different next year in year 2 as compared to year 1? Ashton, we'll start with you.
Be a little more organized and plan even harder. With our program, we've had to kind of start from scratch and put things together. So next year, things will be a little more organized. Lessons will be planned out better than the first year.
Here's what went well. All those plans. Here's what went well, and here's what flopped. Right? Yeah. Here's what we're going to fix. Yeah.
So exactly. My wife tells me, she goes, "Well, that didn't work, so throw that out."
That's kind of like my shortcuts when I'm going somewhere. It's like, I'm not going to do that shortcut again. That didn't quite pan out. So won't do that again. Right? Yeah. Good. Natalie, how about you? What are you going to do different next year?
I feel like going into my second year and going into the new building. So I might have the same kiddos, but we'll be in a new building. So kind of not planning, this is how this is going to go and this is how this is going to go, because it's not. I learned that this year. Sure. It's not going to go as planned. And my day is based on how my students arrive at school, how they are feeling that day. And I feel like I'm going to take it easy on myself a little bit and not be as, well, this didn't work, kind of take those positives and really just have fun the first couple weeks and get the routine down. And that's something I tried to do academics right away.
Right.
And
get the kids comfortable so they can get a little bit more aggressive with the learning stuff later on.
Get those kindergartners and even my new students, or my students coming back into the new building, getting them used to that big building with new faces.
Right.
And that's a huge step for them.
Sure.
It's going to be a huge step and huge sensory piece as well.
Yeah, you've kids in second and third grade and first and second grade they know where the cafeteria is in your current building, and they know where to get off the bus at. Everybody in the building is going to have a new experience, so that'll be a learning curve. Good
Absolutely.
point. Good point. Yeah, thanks, Christian.
So far this year, I've been actually keeping down a written list of things that I'd like to try and improve upon next year, or just creating a mental note of things that I can streamline, such as maybe my classroom routines or policies, just to make things run a little bit more smoothly next year. I also want to get a little bit more involved, maybe in extracurriculars. So this spring, I actually became involved in Potter Putt football, which is a new thing for me. But it's been a lot of fun, and I've met a lot of new people and new students, so I've had a really good time with that.
Well, I know a little something from when we hired you last summer that we had a conversation. You're very involved in competition fishing.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a bass fisherman. I love it.
Okay, and you tell us a little bit about that, because you did that at Akron, and then you've thinking about a club here, and I know another teacher that's right along with you, and
I've heard there's a few of us here at the high school who are interested in fishing, but I've been fishing ever since I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and it really took off when I was in high school. My high school principal started a fishing club where we got to go out with some of the local anglers in our area. They would kind of teach us about different techniques and things to use when we're out on the lake, and then we would have some small tournaments just for fun to be involved in. So that was really where my tournament experiences started. And then when I got to college, another student and I, a friend of mine actually, who is employed at the high school, we put together the University of Akron Bass Fishing Club. And through that, we got to compete all around the United States, whether it was in New York or Maryland. But again, we got to network with different people, made some friends at different schools. And that's just really continued on now in my life, keeping contact with those friends that I made, and then just, doing smaller tournaments here locally. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. Well, any families or students, especially at the high school or middle school, are interested, I'll send them your way to Mr. Combs' room to say, hey, let's talk about fishing.
Of course.
All right. Good. No fish stories, though.
Fish stories are always allowed with me.
Yeah. Good. Well, I want to thank you guys very much. We're going to give you one more shot to share anything you want about the district, about your building, about what you do, or anything. Any last thoughts from any of you? Christian?
Nothing in particular. I just want to thank you for the opportunity for, being able to participate on this podcast and just having a chance to reflect on the school year. It's been a busy year, so don't always get a chance to do that, but it's been a good conversation.
Good. Natalie?
Again, thank you for for allowing us to come on and talk about our first year. It was a blur, and it gave us a chance to kind of look back and think of all that progress we made, and I really thank you to you, Mr. Wendorf, but my principal, Mr. Josh Runner, has been a huge help to me, and not only someone that I could talk to and solve those problems with, but he's also been so hands-on in my classroom, and I really appreciated that. So it's been nice to look back and just see all that great stuff happening.
Yep. Good. Thanks. Mr. McKelley?
Same thing. Thank you. Thank you on multiple levels, for giving me this opportunity here for the podcast and teaching the construction trades. And also, the school system has been phenomenal. We're coming to an era in my family where my daughter graduated in 2020, and then my twin boys graduate this year. So North Canton schools have done very well with my children, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yep. Well, those thanks you three mentioned don't go to me. They go to our entire team and your peers, your teaching peers, your kids' parents, and it's the administrative team that all of those interviews you went through last summer, and the decisions they make. And I'm a small piece in the hiring process, but it's a team effort, and we're glad you're part of the team and do what you do for kids every day and help us be a great place for kids, no matter the age and no matter the program and stuff. But, Thanks for being Vikings. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks to our listeners for joining us today. And this podcast is a great way for us to share information about our school, our fantastic staff, our residents, and our families. And if you have any questions at all, let us know by email at vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. And we also welcome your thoughts regarding this podcast, any feedback you have, or ideas for future. So appreciate it. We've got some other exciting programs coming up in the next month here before we sign off for the summer. But as always, go Vikings.